Hush-a-bye, my baby, slumber time is coming soon. Rest your head upon my breast while mama hums a tune. The Sandman is calling, where shadows are falling, while the soft breezes sigh as the days long gone by. Oh, way down in Missouri, where I heard this melody, when I was a little baby upon my mama's knee. The old folks were humming, their banjos were strumming, so sweet and low. Hear that mournful melody, it haunts you all day long, and you wander in your dreams back to heaven, it seems, when you hear that old time song humming all day long, and the old folks are playing that same evening song. Oh, hush-a-bye, my baby, go to sleep on baby's knee. Journey back to these old hills and dreams again with me. It seems like your mama was there once again, and the old folks were strumming that same old refrain. Oh, way down in Missouri, where I learned this lullaby, when the stars were blinking and the moon was climbing high. Seems I hear voices low as in days long ago, singing hush-a-bye.
Well, good start to the morning, Ken. Don't you think?
That is.
So, good morning once again. Welcome. Fresh season of Real Estate Geeks, live and in person on the internet. You join us now for episode 2 of the current season. And we're going to continue our conversation here about the commission lawsuits. That'll be a topic of discussion pretty much for this entire season. You may have noticed, as with episode 1, we kind of pushed episode 2 back because we had a whole flurry of big announcements, more settlements. We're going to get to that pretty quick, but I will say this avalanche of change that fell down was predicated by both the NAR and Home Services settling the commission lawsuits. And there's a lot of information about that in episode 1 you can harken back to. But for now, we're going to kick off this episode, and we have a whole new kind of set of topics. So without further ado, welcome to the Real Estate Geeks. I am Brad Gore, managing partner and realtor with the Real Pro team at Reese.
And I'm Ken Bowen, managing partner and realtor with the Real Pro team at Reese Nichols. As you may have noticed in our previous episode, we have updated our format. Yes, friends, once again, we're changing the game in live real estate news entertainment. We're using a new platform, Restream, and we're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find us at Real Estate Geeks live on all 3 platforms. So go now, hit the subscribe button and the follow button. You won't want to miss another episode. You'll also notice we're now stationary in the new place. This is our office here in Branson, Missouri.
And It is here in the humble Ozark Hills that we begin today's conversation. I do have a few non-real estate related things I want to talk about. One, there is a lot of coffee. I don't want anybody to think that suddenly we've given up on coffee. But I would like to mention I'm having a delicious cup of coffee in my Branson Bank. Thank you, Larry Maloney and Eric Simpkins, for this mug. I will treasure it always and forever, near and dear to my heart. And I am having some delicious caramel coffee today. It's very good.
Coffee and chocolate chip cookies. I mean, that bank has it all.
I know, right? Well, they have all our money.
That's true.
So that's just how that happens. So I want to talk about coffee first because we haven't got an opportunity to talk a lot about coffee. Again, you can go back and watch episode 1 if you want to hear about what's going on with coffee and all that. But for now, I also want to point out that I do hope everyone took some time to listen to that beautiful rendition of the Missouri Waltz. That was done, sung, arranged, and everything by London Lawhon. Fantastic singer. And this has kind of been the theme song that I have set for this season. I know, kind of weird, right? But I just thought it was really appropriate because all of this change and the season of change that is coming is coming out of the state of Missouri. Humble, little, middle of the country, Missouri. And I don't know if I'm going to say I'm proud of that. But frankly, we're all kind of longing for this time before. We're kind of longing for a new season, I guess, maybe in real estate with the changes that are coming. We're longing for a time that we kind of view as the past, while at the same time preparing ourselves for what the future will look like. And that's why I like the Missouri Waltz. And you need to listen to the words. I'm not gonna. I may play it again, kind of as an outro when we leave it. But that's gonna be kind of our theme song. So when you hear the Missouri Waltz, you know the real estate geeks are coming. And it's not a sad song. It's not. It's kind of somber. But I think it's many realtors and probably a lot of consumers feel about what's happening in real estate. Maybe even in the economy, maybe the country overall is change, and that's what that song is about. So in our first episode, we talked about the rhetoric that is surrounding the commission lawsuits, right? What was really meant. We kind of employed this fact or fiction format, right? You can find those episodes, and of course, many other episodes on our Facebook page at Real Estate Geeks Live. You can also find us on YouTube, also at Real Estate Geeks Live. You go to our website, realestategeeks.tv. While you're there, hit the like and subscribe buttons, and you'll never miss an episode. We are going to move on today, and we're going to get far more granular and in depth with what we're talking about. We're going to really explore one of the reasons that the proponents, those in favor, which, by the way, is a very small group, which we'll get to next week, but people that are in favor of these changes to the commission, right? I do need to, as we get deeper into this, I do need to define one word that floats around, right? That's called, that word is decoupling, right? And what they're talking about when they say decoupling commissions, they're talking about buyers and sellers paying their own agents, right? No float between them, right? And so that's been a perfectly legal practice in this country for a long, long time. I'm not going to get too much into the historical background of the past and how real estate was done, but I do want to say that there was another way that this was done. Many years ago, most real estate was sold by speculators, and that could have been homes or land. It was mostly land. Homes back then were very often passed down. Somebody rarely bought a home. They were passed down to other members of the family. So there weren't a lot of over-the-counter transactions. And most of those sales were what we call net sales, which is illegal today. But net sales were done wherein a speculator and an owner of property would kind of join forces. And the owner of the property would tell the speculator, I want $100 per lot for all of this land that I have. Whatever you get over that, that's your pay. And so they might say, okay, well, I want $100 a lot. And the speculator says, okay, I'll contract with you to speculate on that value. And he'll go around trying to sell it to people for $150 a lot. He owes $100 to the owner, and he gets to keep $50 every time he sells a lot. Today, that's illegal. We don't allow that. So over time, this practice became very predatory, and there were a lot of laws and rules and codes that were established to protect consumers. Born out of that was the commission model, wherein commission was paid to a seller's agent. So seller's agents collect commission. They agree that if somebody else brings the buyer, that way that buyer can go get representation, and the seller will take a portion of their earnings and give it to their agent to represent the other person on the other side of the transaction. This allowed buyers and sellers to hire their own agents to protect only their own interests. So that's kind of the big change that kind of came out.
Which, seems like a pretty good system. However, outside of the US of A, the system is very different. And that's one of the points I think kind of gets overlooked. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about here today. Many proponents of decoupling, there's that word again, Australian and British models of real estate.
Now, I wanted to interject here with my best Australian British accent,
Okay.
but I've spent some time in Great Britain, and I have been told that my British accent is offensive, so I'm not going to do that. Nobody's going to break out into, Crocodile Dundee today, so don't worry.
I'm going to say thank you.
Yeah.
And we're going to move along with, but no, a lot of folks talk about decoupling, and they cite Australia and the British models of real estate sales and representation as models that the U.S. should follow. And they do that because they believe these models are better for consumers and save sellers money and help keep homes affordable, which in theory all sounds good. But since the seller's not paying a hugely inflated commission, there's some interesting words, home prices are increasing more affordable, and buyers will be able to buy homes at lower prices. Now, we discussed that policy some in our last show, but as a refresher, we don't believe sellers are simply just give up money. They're just going to, $40,000. Instead, we believe that sellers are simply continue selling at market price and pocket extra cash. Market price is really going to be the different factor.
I'm going to assume my skeptical face. And I'm going to say that human nature is that I'm not just suddenly one day decide, since this commission lawsuit is through, since the NAR has decided to remove that from multi-listing services, I'm just going to take less money for my house. I think that, like many industries, the price that the consumer is willing to pay is driven by the market. So there's a market, and there are similar homes that are selling in similar areas that are similarly situated. And if that house is worth $500,000, I want $500,000 for my house. The commission that I pay is irrelevant. And again, I've said this before, I don't agree with the commissions are built into the price of the house. And so all homes are overpriced by 6%. I don't believe that. The commission is built into the equity, right? And the equity is what determines whether or not a consumer can afford to pay that. If they don't, then they have to come out of pocket. And then that really is the seller is paying the commission. What you're saying here is that we don't want to do that anymore. We want the seller to pay commission out of their own pocket, out of their equity, and the buyer to pay out of pocket. Because there is an argument to be made that we have heard before. If the buyer is bringing all the money to the table, then isn't the buyer paying the commission? Well, no, it's the seller because the seller is receiving all the money in exchange for selling their home. So they're the one actually paying it. Now we're into an argument which came first, chicken or the egg.
Chicken and egg, yes.
When an argument could be made that without the chicken, there can't be an egg.
Sure.
Oh, well, without the egg, there can't be a chicken. Well, so the chicken's got to sit on the egg. Well, wait, you just go, it's just a big circle. The equity is what matters. And the equity is where the seller is reducing their equity in order to induce a purchase.
Yes.
So I say the seller is paying the agreed upon amount to the seller's agent. If the seller's agent acts as a buyer's agent, dual agency, which is allowed, many brokers do it different. Some, like our brokerage, transition to a transaction broker, but the semantics are really not that important. If I do that, then I represent the buyer and the seller. Then who's paying me? The buyer. The buyer's bringing all the money to the table,
Okay.
right? So the seller's paying me, say, a couple of percent, and the buyer's paying me a couple of percent. Like at the end of the day, okay, let's say that we lower the price on all the houses by a couple of percentage points, and the seller just starts writing offers a couple percentage points over ask, and then says, "You pay all the commission back to my broker." Like it's just such a vicious cycle that I don't see who benefits from it. When you agree that most sellers are going to want market price, they're not just going to suddenly lower the price of their home just because maybe we as over time as an industry, yes, commissions maybe do come down because buyers aren't going to be able to pony up. That's for buyers agents. I don't think sellers agents are just going to suddenly wake up one day and say, "I'll work for less and do the same work." Do you?
No, because your cost, your time, all that's going to be relatively the same if you're out there working for your seller to get that property sold. And on the flip side of that, you know, if you do X job all day long and your boss brings in a new tool to make sure job half is easy, you're just going to go and tell your boss, "You know what, I'll pay half the pay so job's easy." No. The same thing with the sellers. The sellers are going to go, "Well, there are some possibilities here. I don't really need that $10,000, $15,000 to install the house, you know, as it grows. Honestly, I really need that." Well, we know that's probably not going to happen because they're going to try and buy a house, condo somewhere, and they're going to be like, we would probably look at it as how many hours I can get and the next purchase, because maybe I'm going to cost more. Maybe I need a bigger house. So I just don't see in general people leaving on the table if they absolutely have to do some other factor, but definitely not from a commission standpoint.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. I don't think it's going to lower home prices. I think it's just going to put more money in the pockets of sellers. But and we also have kind of the flip side of that coin where we get to say that we can still there is no rule against a seller paying a buyer. You just can't advertise it in the MLS. You can advertise it externally as long as where you're advertising it does not connect to the MLS. All it does is remove that from the MLS, which essentially the MLS is a database that makes it easier for us to find properties for our buyers and share information and keep that information private. You can say whatever you want. Oh, well, that information should all be public. No, there's a lot of information about people's homes that should not be public.
That should not be public.
And about their finances that should not be public. So there is a use for that, but there is nothing to stop us from setting up our own websites. And as long as that information is not pulled from the MLS via what we call an IDX, Internet Data Exchange, we can still say, "Hey, here's all this information about a property that I have listed, and my seller is offering a buyer's agent this amount, whatever." So I just don't. I think this is a small group of people who have upset an entire industry for their own good. I don't see the mass market appeal to these changes for nearly 100% of buyers and sellers in the real estate market. I just don't see it. So we've beat that horse to death. Let's move on to our actual topic and let's talk about this. Well, we should do things more like Great Britain and Australia, because Great Britain and Australia have similar markets to the United States in terms of the types of real estate and how they sell real estate. And they pay much lower commissions. They don't tell you the whole story.
There's
And
always
one of my favorite. So we've talked on this show about some great shows that are on NPR. We talked about Cliff and Clack, great guys. I wish that show was still on. We're going to talk about another one, and I can't do it the way he did it, but we're going to talk about the rest of the story.
Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey. We need to Paul Harvey. Got to tell you the rest of
I'm a
this.
big Paul Harvey fan, so yes.
He was a fantastic broadcaster. He was great. We don't have many of them like that anymore,
No.
But we're going to tell you the rest of the story. So I'm going to take a little trip to Australia, down under. And I told you I'm not going to get a Crocodile Dundee on you.
No shrimp on the Barbie jokes here.
No. But I'm going to tell you a big secret, the secret that no one is telling you, American consumer. In Great Britain and Australia, they call state agents, right? They're not realtors because that's a very American thing. That is a trademark that belongs to the National Association of Realtors, right? Realtor is a word they made up. Real estate agents is what we are. In Great Britain and Australia, they call them estate agents. They are paid a salary. Oh, yeah. A salary. It's a 40-hour-a-week job. That's what it is. They get a salary. That's why commissions are lower. They aren't just lower because that's what they decided. It's because they get paid a salary. Estate agents work for an estate company, an estate agency, and they're paid a salary. I do not get a salary. I am self-employed. If I don't sell, I don't get paid. Listing or buying, I don't get a paycheck. I don't get benefits, none, zilch, nothing. I get nothing. No benefits. I get no health insurance. I have no 401k, nothing. I have to do all that myself. My health insurance comes out of my pocket. My retirement planning comes out of my pocket. All of it. No salary, no benefits. I don't get paid vacation. I go on vacation. I make no money. That's it. Now, a lot of brokerages, the NAR, there are some deals out there where we can get a little bit of a discount on some of this stuff. We can get a little bit of retirement planning, but by and large, it all comes out of our pocket, right? There's no free lunch in what we're doing. So my brokerage also owns my office space, right? They can kick me out whenever they want. They can, I don't know, send me an eviction notice, get your stuff, get out. They can move my office anytime they want. I'm very lucky. I have a great broker who apparently loves me, as he tells me all the time. He's the one that told me that I have resting, cynical face. So we have this office here, but we're expected to perform. We're expected to contribute to the program. I pay for my own marketing. I pay for the coffee in my coffee pot that I brew out here. It's my coffee pot and my coffee. My brokerage does not provide that for me. I pay for my own computers. I pay for my own cell phones and my other technology. I pay for everything out of my pocket. So if I was to head down under to Australia, what would my life as an estate agent be like? How would it change? Well, one, I can expect to be paid $80,000 a year. That's Australia. To qualify that.
Okay.
Which is not that far off of the dollar. $80,000 a year. Plus, I get a bonus. We went on Indeed, is where we did a lot of this research. And on Indeed, there were jobs posted from estate agents. right? And these estate agents, the average pay was 80. They were up to 120 if you had experience, right? $120,000 a year. And bonuses are 25% of the commissions that I generate. So if I bring in $1 million a year in commissions, which we'll get to that in a minute, how that would not be that hard in Australia. I can make 250 grand in bonus. And I already meet all of the expectations that Indeed sets out there. In Australia, on Indeed, most of these jobs require things like a college exam and experience. And I have, a college degree. I have all of that. I would have to pass the Australian Grade 1 licensing exam. The great thing is that I can go ahead and I can get me an office. I can say I'm going to work for you. I get hired, and they will invest some time in helping me pass my real estate exam. Great. I can go ahead and get a paycheck, and I can start working on my exam, right? As a consumer in Australia, I would expect to pay not very much money. 1.5 to 2% was about the average that I could dig up to sell my home. And this has been reported widely in a lot of news outlets. They have 1.5 to 2%. If I'm a buyer, I'm probably going to pay a set fee. $1,500 to $3,000 was pretty average for the sale of a home. Around 10% if it was a lease. So if you did say a 2 or 3 year lease and that was $100,000, you get 10 grand. A lot of leasing goes on in Australia. I'll get to that in a minute too. So it's not bad pay. So I have no issues with that. So I'm going to take off. This will be my last episode. I'm going to go to Australia and be an estate agent because I can guarantee I'm going to get paid. So Ken, nice knowing you. I'm going to get out of here. Oh wait, except nationwide, the average home price in Australia is $925,000. So even on my fancy paycheck, I can't buy a house, which is why the home ownership rate in Australia is about 10% below the US. And the majority are leases. Most estate agents make most of their money doing leases. They do. Something else that's different, and we'll talk about this when it comes to Great Britain, that's very similar though. If you're a seller, you pay that fee for they call it a success fee for a successful closing. But as a seller, you pay for your own marketing. These brokerages, you can go on websites in Australia for different brokerages, and they'll tell you, we have these fantastic marketing packages. You can buy any one of these packages. You prepay for it. Some of them are thousands of dollars. I found one website where they had this package. If your home is worth $2.5 million or more, they have this fantastic package it's all this great marketing. It's social media. It's these videos. They throw a party. Everything is $30,000, and you write the check the day you sign an agreement to list the house. $30,000, and the seller has to pay that. That 1.5 to 2% is we represent you. That's it. They don't have an MLS. There are a couple of websites that are used just like an MLS. You put it in there, and they exchange information back and forth. A lot of leasing websites that do this. So I also want to mention that in Australia, in the whole country, there are less than 20,000 estate agents in the entire country. There's 1.5 million realtors, and lots of reporting that there's probably at least 2 million people who work in the real estate industry. That's not a lot of competition in general. So, you can make a pretty good living and you get paid a salary. I don't know that I could do the whole, an average price, like a basic home is $700,000, $800,000.
I like the thought of the seller paying the marketing fees up front.
Yeah.
That's a section of that process that we get.
And you're going to take a little trip to Great Britain. In Great Britain, they even have a word for it, right? So we'll get to that. But basically, when you sign a listing agreement, they have all these boxes they like to check, and there's one of the boxes called instructions. And in Great Britain, you sign a listing agreement, and the instructions box is where you tell them, here's how much I want to pay, here's which package I want to choose for marketing. Here is they use barristers, like they don't do title companies like we do. You actually have attorneys that's what they do, is they do settlement. And so you give them instructions on settlement, who has to pay for it. There's a lot of money that comes out of the seller's pocket that I bet if you did the math, and I did the math on a few, and it's pretty darn close to 4 or 5% on the sales price actually coming out of their pocket by the time they sell. I want to mention in Australia, if you hire a buyer's agent, they don't find a bunch of properties for you. You don't get in their car and go drive around and look at all of them. What you're paying for is for them to represent you. You go find your house on your own. And usually you go and you look at the houses with whoever the agent is that is representing the seller. You call them up and they show you the house. And then you might pick one of those people to represent you in whatever house you buy, or you might pick the person who is actually representing the seller, and then you pay them. It could be just your best friend, it could be an estate agent. You look at a bunch of houses, pick the one you want to write on, you go to them and you pay them $3,000, and they'll send an offer over for you. By the way, there's very little negotiating too. The way their offers, I looked at some of the paperwork that I could find, and some of it I think is kind of old, but I don't think it's changed that much. When they list a price on a house, it says we are accepting offers. If they want $1 million for it, we are accepting offers in excess of $1 million. That is your notice right there. $1 million is the price, and you have to run that or more. There's like no negotiating, very little. It's crazy.
Well, just as I'm just nosing around through some different listings from Australia, you're exactly right. That's the first thing I thought was interesting. In excess of was on there, so you kind of knew what the starting point was. And I understand, at 9.25,
Put my skeptical piece back on here.
The 9.25, and as an average price, just looking through there, there were some under that, but you were living a whole lot more in the 1.5 to 2.2 million range.
So there's this fun little town in the middle of Australia, which, as if you know anything about Australia, everybody lives on the coast. The whole rest of Australia is like farms and stuff like that. Yeah, and there's no place called Alice Springs. I was trying to find a house in Alice Springs, which is a pretty big city, right in the middle of the country. And it's kind of like the only big city that's kind of out away from the coast. And multiple millions to even get anything. Multiple millions.
It's a different system.
There's not an inexpensive. Well, their version of expensive is way different than ours. But there's not a lot of variation. That's what I kept seeing is I was going around the coast from Perth and just all these little on the coast. I even looked at some stuff in Getty that I could find, and there's not a lot of them. There's not I can live in this area of this town. Maybe get a $300,000-$500,000 house. No, you could that area of town is $900,000. If you want to live in a nice area of town, it's $5 million. There just wasn't, and the leases were like $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, Australia. But the exchange rate is different.
Well, like you said, but the a la carte sounds good because you're only getting exactly what you need /want.
Yeah.
But once you do that breakdown, there's not this huge gap between the percentage we're talking about and going a la carte. And as we all know, it takes money to sell homes and advertise and do all the things you need to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But talking about Great Britain, so going British here.
Across the pond, little trip across the Atlantic now.
So I have some observations. I'm headed to Australia because of the coast and the weather. But if I'm on the Great Britain side of things here, I'm going to make about 40,000 to 50,000 would be my salary in British pounds. So that translates out to about $65,000.
Now, there's an exchange rate in your favor.
So,
That's not bad.
I like the money. I like the weather, but I'm used to the weather in Great Britain for the money. But also, I would make bonuses based on sales volume, and in some cases, those are up to $100,000 per year in bonus. So we're still talking about pretty good sums of money
Not bad.
here,
And
for nothing.
so something just to bring up, by the way, you don't have to have a license to be an estate agent in Great Britain. Nothing. There are some industries.
Good point.
Yeah, there are some portions of the industry where there are third parties that provide, some type of not really licenses, but like certificates that I noticed a lot of brokerages when I was looking in Great Britain, you can get these certificates and they pay you more, or maybe you get access to other types of real estate leads and things like that. So I thought that was interesting. No license.
Yeah. I mean, considering all the licensing and continuing education and things that we have to go
yeah, I mean, it's
to sort of prove we're up to standard.
Yeah, you've got, within a few years starting out in this career, you have hundreds of hours just to get your license, then the after licensing, then 12 hours a year, 12 hours in 2 years of continuing education. You have hundreds of hours invested. Great Britain, 0.
Yeah.
Show up. That's what you got to do.
Get ready to go. Start right away.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I pay for nothing. I only have to compete with around about 1,000 people in the whole of London.
Which I thought was amazing. There's about 1,000 estate agents that I could find registered immediately in line. I didn't get real far outside of London. So, yeah.
But, going a little bit wider, I mean, you're looking at maybe 23,000 in the whole country. You talked a little bit about the number of agents.
Yeah.
So, for reference,
23,000
all
of Great Britain
versus
not realtors, estate agents.
Estate agents in Great Britain, but 23,000 realtors in Missouri alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but hey, look at the bright side. Good news though, average home price in the U.S. is just 294,000.
Yeah, so 294 here, which is about the same as Great Britain, has about the same home price. So that does seem a little bit better. You can still buy a home for 294, 295 in Great Britain.
But are they the same size as what you get in America?
Well, that would buy you here, 300 grand here would buy you, you can get 15, 1600. If you get a little bit out, you might get 1,800 square feet. 3.2, own your own land. That's not bad.
Across the pond, that gets you about 800 square feet.
That's $400 a square foot.
Pretty much.
That's small. It's not a very big place.
So play along, go up to your garage, and factor that as your whole space.
Yeah, so the home prices are about the same. The home ownership rate is about the same, but you only get 800 square feet. So you're basically getting like a studio apartment or like a small row home of some kind, something like that. That's all you're getting for 300 grand. I get it. Yeah, I mean, so that's the difference. Now, so one of the things I found interesting was in Great Britain, you get, when you sign an agreement to sell a house and you hire an estate agent to do it, you get this opportunity to give them instructions. That's what I was talking about earlier. And on the contract, it's actually called instructions. It's a listed process that they teach you is to do instructions. And in the instructions, they might have like a set deal where they say, okay, here's the marketing that we will do to market your home to consumers. And it could be videos and photos and Facebooks and Instagrams, open houses of some kind, listings on different websites. The more websites you want it on, the more it costs. And you could, okay, the seller is going to say, okay, I'm instructing you to spend $5,000 on marketing my home, or $1,000, or it could be zero. Could be zero. And 1.5 to up to about 3%. And the more expensive the home, the more you're going to pay, right? And part of the instructions is also the seller might say, I will pay up to $2,000 in settlement fees. It could be I'll pay zero. It could be I'll pay five. So you have to get a barrister, a specific type of attorney in Great Britain to do your settlement for you. And they're the ones that actually settle out who owes who and how much. And you give the money to them and they distribute it all out whenever. You have to pay for that. And it's thousands of dollars. That settlement can also include everywhere in Great Britain, the whole country. It's not like this is a state by state thing or a county by county or municipality by municipality. There are inspectors that have to go and do energy audits. And if they don't like the rating that you get, you'll have to pay to improve that rating, or you'll have to pay these fees so that your home is more energetic, or like you've prepaid for some of these fees. That's part of your settlement, and the seller could say, I'm not going to pay any of that. The buyer has to pay all of it, or I'll pay all of it. So you start adding this stuff up, and it's more than 3%. Like they're probably paying more out of pocket. And then their estate agent gets a salary and a bonus. They don't, this is what our brokerage charges: 2%, 3%, 1.5%. That's what you pay. There's no negotiating that. And then here's our marketing packages. Give me instructions on how you're going to do all this stuff. It's representation, but it's representation of a contractual nature. They're not going to, they don't necessarily negotiate for you. They don't try to get better terms for you from the buyer. It's the same on the buyer side. On the buyer side, you're going to kind of a la carte it, and you're going to pay some fees. Everything I can find, I found a couple of brokers is like our buyer's fee is $2,500, and that's it. Up to like a certain amount, and it's $2,500 plus 1% or something like that. Like it was real close. They didn't have a lot of variation, which, by the way, is what this whole lawsuit is over. We don't like things that are the same. Again, face. Look, if my broker wants to step up today and just say, hey, we're gonna change everything, y'all get a salary and bonus, and this is how much we're charging. By the way, here's your dirt cheap health insurance and your profit share and your 401k, and we're gonna put a coffee station downstairs with a 24/7 barista, and we're gonna pipe Barry Manilow into your office all day. Free massage on Tuesdays. What I'm saying is, if all of a sudden my broker wants to decide that that's how they're going to do it, because according to consumer these reports, we need to be more like Great Britain and Australia. Great. I still get to sell real estate, but I guarantee you that at the end of the day, the consumer will pay more to sell or buy a home than they're paying right now. It's not going to make it cheaper. I also guarantee there'll be a lot fewer people in the industry.
True.
It's going to take the cream of the crop to do that. And being self-employed, I make the choice. And this is anybody that's self-employed. I make the choice to control my destiny. And what I give up for that is the guarantee of steady income. That's what I give up. A lot of people are not going to make the choice. They're going to say, no, I'll go do my own thing. And that's fine. That opens a lot of doors for a lot of people.
Well, stocking your own shelves is
very
quite the ordeal versus someone sending you a product of some form.
But it also means that in just like any industry, that competition will draw. There won't be as much competition. There will be a few very big companies and a few independent companies, and nothing in between.
And for all this,
it's less choice for
happen later. Yeah. But we've not even touched on the actual inventory issue.
No, we're not. Yeah,
all the effects it's going to have. So there's a lot.
But again, it's less choice for consumers is the point I want to make.
Sure,
less choice for consumers, and I don't think that's a positive thing. I think it's great that consumers can go out, and there are over 500 people just in two counties, Taney and Stone County, that belong to our board of realtors. They've got 500 people they can choose from. And isn't the whole point of a free market economy choice?
Exactly.
I think so. as I've said several times before, my Alexa wants to talk to me. Apparently, she has something to say. That's hilarious. We've said before that some of this feels a little communist. We don't like communism in this country. We look down on it. The whole point of a free market is choice. So there's the moment of pause in sympathy for the free market. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I'm going to throw an idea at you. I threw this idea at you last time. I hope you take it to heart. Is don't get your information from the news. Don't do that. Talk to your real estate professional. If you don't have one, find one. Here in our little circle of the world, there's over 500. You can throw a rock. The first guy you hit, probably a realtor. Ask them what it all means. If you don't have a real estate professional, call us. 417-243-0808. We're happy to talk to you. You don't have to pay anything, right? I don't have a pick up the phone fee. We'll talk to you about real estate. Obviously, we enjoy it. So we'll help you. We'll answer your question. We're also happy to tell you that we're going to dig even deeper into this hole. Deeper and deeper, getting far more granular as this season goes on. Next time, we're going to actually dig into two opposing views. And I'm going to talk about a show that I listen to. I listen to the podcast from NPR called Planet Money. And for me, this is replace the car guys with a clack. This is what I listen to. So NPR ran a story on April 3rd. And this story was all about real estate. It was called The Real Estate Industry on Trial. And they interviewed Mike Ketchmark. And I can't say that I have a view either direction about Mr. Ketchmark, except to say you need to go listen to this and listen to what he has to say about why this lawsuit came about. And I can see why he prevailed in court. He is a very charismatic individual, and he tells the story well. I want to analyze that. So that's Planet Money. If you got your podcast app, look up Planet Money, and it aired on April 3rd. 29 minutes, and you will learn a lot. You will understand why we're here having this conversation. The second story, so opposing viewpoint here, is from Inman, and you can subscribe to Inman. Just Google Inman, you'll find it. It is kind of an industry journal. It's all reporting on the real estate industry. And it was written by Taylor Anderson on April 30th. I've got the story here. It's called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Rating the Media's Commission Coverage. So we talked about the one thing in the media coverage that I wanted to pull out. They were saying this is why we should do this. That's what we talked about today, because they were all saying, it's Great Britain and Australia, they've got it figured out. I don't think they've got it figured out. I think they just do it differently. And I don't think doing it that way, I actually don't think is good for consumers. I don't think less choice for consumers is good. So we're going to talk about these two articles. We're going to talk about the NPR article that's from their podcast, Money, and we're going to talk about Inman's view on that. And we're going to kind of juxtapose the two things to talk about what Mr. Ketchmark says specifically, and then what's going on with media coverage and the things that they're getting right and wrong, the stories that you're seeing, because most of it is wrong. Just spoiler alert, most of it is wrong. So that's going to be on our next episode as we continue talking about this. So check it out on the socials. At the Real Estate Geeks Live. That's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. It's all the same. And you can watch some of our past episodes there too.
And something else you may be asking yourself, what are the fun, shorter segments that I used to watch, know, and love? Well, don't worry. This Sold House, expanded coffee reviews, in the news, and special guests will return when we move to our new studio with the sun. But now, while the show is live, we'll have a series of taping edits short available later this year. You'll have lots of options to choose from. There's that organ.
Choice. That's what we like. Choice. We have a lunch date. It is about that time. So we're going to wrap this up. And let me just tell you, folks, we've mentioned this before. We never miss lunch.
It is on the calendar every day.
It's on the calendar every day. So that's our show for today. We will see you next time on The Real Estate.
Bye-bye.